start. Welcome to all of you to the Leiden region. Also, welcome to this welcome event. That's a lot of welcomes in one sentence. If everybody could please mute their microphone, turn off your cameras for the visuals to be less noisy, and happy to have you here. Please note that we will be recording this entire session. So by staying, you implicitly give us permission to record. We have a nice program for this evening, and the program will consist of an introduction by the Expat Centre Leiden, and then the highlights of the region by Monique Moot, my colleague from the Tourist Information Leiden. And also your questions about Dutch culture and communication will be answered by Caitríona Rush, who will explain a little bit about working with the Dutch. I will end with a question and answers at the end. So if you don't mind, put your questions in the chat box where we can see them, and I will personally tell our presenters what the questions are. In the next slide, I will explain a little bit about the Expat Centre itself. We are a non-for-profit organization, so we're not going to get rich off of you. We're funded by the government, educational institutions, and local businesses. We help internationals, we help them move, settle into the Leiden region, and also we offer lots of government services. So that is registration and BSN, your burger service number, word you will be hearing a lot about in the future. We give information. We provide a network to all the people living in our region and living here or working here. The network that we provide is also lots of information and also social events. We do this in all stages of the life of an international in the Leiden region. And we do this in cooperation with a lot of municipalities and also service partners. Now, how can the Expat Centre Leiden help you? What can we do for you? We begin already, if you can find us, with information that we are giving in the orientation phase. This is when you are still living abroad, so before you actually come to the Leiden region. And also this webinar, of course, is open to people who are not yet here. Then once they come here, need to settle in, but also when you're living here, we offer lots of services. And hopefully everybody who's leaving this region will be an ambassador for the Expat Centre and for the region. International newcomers and residents living or working in Leiden, Leiderdorp, Oostgeest, Voorschoten and Zoeterwoude are our clientele. So we can help you with municipal registration and offering you a burger service number, the BSN. We do this in a collaboration with the people from Access who man our help desk, and you can ask your questions with them. So we provide information in our website. There is a lot of information on the website, so please take a look at that and scroll through the different items. Also, I would like to say is sign up for our expat newsletter. There's big buttons on the homepage of our website where you can sign up, and then we'll give you information about events like these, but also all the other good stuff that the Expat Centre has to offer. You can find us on social media as well. So all the major social media we have covered. Please attend our informative and also social events, get to know other people, make sure that you make some friends in the Leiden region, and your life will be so much more pleasant here. What we also do is refer you to trusted partners we work together with if the question is too difficult or too specialized for ourselves. So that can be housing agents, lawyers, tax advisors, but also volunteer organizations, healthcare, and so on and so on. So please feel free to ask your questions to us. In the next slide, you'll see that we are hosting lots of events. The meet and mingles are social events where you get to meet other people. We are still doing those online. It's still a very great way to meet other people. And what we have found out is that lots of new WhatsApp groups have emerged from our meet and mingle. So that's really nice. Also, more informative events we are offering. Mortgage walk-ins where you, for free, of course, can ask your questions about mortgage in the Netherlands. Also, how to find an ideal job in the Netherlands. So there's a career, also dual career opportunities, housing, another meet and mingle, and so on. So mark your calendars for the meet and mingles every first Thursday of the month, but make sure to check our website, and the Q&R code will directly lead you to the events part of the website of the Expat Centre. And now we're moving on to my colleague Monique Moot, who's the manager of the Tourist Information Leiden, and she will, in a question and answer kind of way, give you answers to lots of stuff that you can be doing in this region. So Monique, take it away, please. It's still on mute.
On mute, unmute.
There
okay.
You go.
Hi, everybody. The picture you see right now is the outside of our Tourist Information Center. Tourist information doesn't mean we only help tourists. We're very, very happy to help locals, but also newcomers like you, because we can give you any kind of information. Good for you to know is where we're located. We're very close to the railway station, the Stationsweg. So it's very central. From our office, you can easily walk into the center of Leiden. Also, you see two red stars on the map. So the one below is the tourist information, VVV, it's called in Dutch. And on your left, you see a red star next to the University Hospital. That's the new location of the Stadskantoor, which is a city office. So Stadskantoor is where you have to be also for the Expat Centre and access. So that's good for you to know that the station is in the middle. On the left, it's Stadskantoor, and on the right, it's the tourist information. So, well, here you see some nice pictures of the inside of the tourist information. We have a beautiful brand store, and you're very welcome for any kind of information. We have many free leaflets, city maps, city guides, and also many nice tourist information things, or get orientated, and souvenirs. And especially for the souvenirs, they're really Dutch, but lovely Dutch, like the tulips and the Delft blue. And of course, we have very Dutch books, like the Daily Dutch Dishes, a really Dutch cookbook, which you really should have. So in the next slide, you will see
Monique,
yes?
Monique, just a question for you. Is the VVV also giving information about what to see in the city and its surroundings?
Yes, of course. When you look on the left, you see some examples of nice cycle routes we offer. Leiden is a central point of many possibilities to, and many ways to see the area. by bike, by foot, and especially on the bike, it's very good because everything is close to Leiden. Like, to give you an example, Noordwijk, Katwijk, which is on the beach. Katwijk is only 8 kilometers away, and that's then on the western side of Leiden. When you go north, you have the lake area. When you go west, you have the, or on the east, it's the Green Heart. So there are many ways on the bike to go around. And of course, you can also walk, and especially in the city center of Leiden, it's lovely to walk around. Leiden is a very compact city. Everything is a walking distance. Most routes we offer are about 4 to 5 kilometers, and of course you can make them when you're walking around and you have many places to have a nice drink or some food, and you can make a route of 5 kilometers that you can spend all day. To give you some examples of those routes, you see the Leiden Loop, the Leidse Loper, that's a general walking tour. And Leidse Hofjes is about the courtyard, which we have 35 in Leiden. The Pilgrim Route is a very, very special story about the pilgrims coming from Great Britain to Holland, and then they went to the United States. And the Rembrandt Route. And Rembrandt is a special story. When you talk about Rembrandt, many people think of Amsterdam, but he was born in Leiden. So it all started here. And what makes it very special is that we have a young Rembrandt experience. In this lovely house you see, we have a small tourist information with a shop with stuff about Rembrandt. But the main thing is the experience, which is a kind of 3D video mapping of 7 minutes. And that tells you the whole story of Leiden and Rembrandt. It's really special. At the moment, it's closed because of all the COVID situation, but we hope to open again same time as the museum. So 9th of June, we hope, and then you're very welcome. Another thing about Rembrandt is the Latin school. You will see it. Yeah, here you see it. You can't go in because there's an office situated there, but on the outside, which is really special, when you look through the window, you can see yourself getting sketched the Rembrandt way. And you can download your own sketch, and it's for free. The only thing you have to do is stand in front of that window. So that's really lovely, and that's special, especially because this building, this Latin school, was the primary school Rembrandt went to. So we have many Rembrandt things still remembering him in Leiden.
Also, Monique, the next question would be, can you elaborate on a few museums Leiden has?
Yes, we have 13 museums. Leiden is really called Museum City. And we have the Windmill Museum, the original windmill, where you can go in and see how people used to live and work. We have the Lakenhal, which has beautiful paintings, botanical garden. But I think at the moment, 2 really special museums are the Boerhaave and Naturalis. And why? Because they were both the European Museum of the Year. Boerhaave in 2019, and this year Naturalis has won this special prize. And Naturalis has won more prizes, not only for the museum itself, but also the building. It's really special already from the outside. And when you go in, they're very famous because of their dinosaur collection, and especially the T-Rex. And the Boerhaave Museum, they have a special collection about medical and science. And at the moment, of course, because of the pandemic we're in, they have a special exhibition, which is really, from now. So when they open again, hopefully the 9th of June again, then go to the Boerhaave Museum and you will learn everything from the Middle Ages till now about medical history and also science things. So really special museums.
A little bit about the water. We see lovely pictures about water here. There is a lot of water in Leiden. What are the possibilities for water activities, Monique?
Yeah, what you say, we have a lot of water in Leiden. There's 28 kilometers of canals in Leiden only. So Amsterdam has the most water, but we're second. And it's a really lovely way to go around. Of course, you can have your own boat, but when you're not that lucky, you can rent one. There are some renting possibilities in the center of Leiden, but also in the area. And when they can start again, the boat tours, the canal tours, they go around for 1 hour. So at the moment, they're still not allowed to go, but we think half of June they will be, and then it's a lovely way, a very comfortable way to see the old center, because you can sit back and you look up, and especially when you look up, you see the beautiful facades of all the buildings. The houses are so nice, and when you walk on the street, you see a lot, but it's not possible to look up all the time. So from the boat, you have a very special view of the city. And there are also boat possibilities for nice tours to go over the lakes in the area. And that's starting at the end of the month. So then you go through the lakes north and the Green Heart. And that's also very beautiful. And you see the farms and the windmills. So really, the water is very important for us.
Of course, water is one way to be outside and enjoy the outside activities. What can you tell us about sightseeing on bike?
Yeah, of course, everybody is on the bike. When you start in Leiden, it's when you go to the beach, to the dune area, it's 8 kilometers. And when you go to the lakes north of Leiden, it's only a couple of kilometers. So it's easy to do a nice tour for a couple of hours. So just to give you an idea, when you go from here to Katwijk, it will take you about a half an hour, and you can easily go around, say, south to the dunes, and then come back through Wassenaar and Voorschoten, and it's really lovely. So that's for everybody, and you can make it as long as you wish. Some people think 10 or 15 kilometers is enough, but well, okay, when you 40, 50, you can easily make that in the area, and there's a lot to see. Also, when you look on the next slide, you see some examples of yeah, like the farms. So please give me the next slide, Jenny. Okay, thanks. So the castle you see, that's Duivenvoorde in Voorschoten. That's a real estate. You can easily walk around Duivenvoorde and also on the bike. And there's also a museum. And of course, you see the cows. We have many farms in the area and windmills. And so in that way, we're really typical Dutch. The picture on the left, you see that's the Burg. That's the old fortress in the middle of the center of Leiden. And of course, on the right, you see the dunes and the beach. So yeah, renting a bike is a possibility, or maybe even buy your own bike, because I think everybody living here and settling in should have a bike.
Exactly. So that's actually a very good tip. Get a bike.
Yeah.
What are some shopping possibilities in Leiden?
The city center, we have the main street, which is the Haarlemmerstraat. That's where you find all the what more common shops. But we also have this lovely area surrounding the Peter's Church, where you find the special shops, the smaller shops. So wandering around there, that's very nice. And of course, typical Dutch is the market. On Wednesday and on Saturday, we have this market where you can have everything, like flowers, cheese, clothing, whatever you need, you can find it on the market. Also in the surrounding villages of Leiden, there are also markets, like for instance in Voorschoten, they have on Friday they have a market. Don't know the other ones by heart, but almost every place, almost every village has got their own market. When you want to come to Leiden and you don't live in the city, in the area, when you want to come by car, there are very good parking garage. There are 2 really special garages, which are down under the windmill De Valk, and the other one is on the south side of the city, the Garenmarkt. So you don't see it from the outside, you go under the ground. There are good parking garages. When you don't want to come by car, you can take the bus. The public transport is very good. There are many buses going to the central station, and from the central station, everything is on walking distance. And when you need information about the public transport, feel free to come to the tourist information, because we also provide information about that. The bus company driving around in our area is Arriva. You see that on the bus. You can also get like abonnements in our office, and or when you're not sure what you need, we can give you more information. So please feel free to come to the tourist information for any kind of questions. When we don't know the answer ourselves, we will try to find it for you. There's always a way to help you. And well, when at the last slide you see our beautiful website. There's Leiden Key to Discoveries. The name says it all. There's a lot of information on the website, and also when you have questions, when you look in the website, we have the chat possibility. So we'll be happy to help you one way or another. But of course, the best way to help you is when you're in our office. So please come and see what we can do for you.
Thank you so much, Monique.
You're welcome.
So yeah, please visit the tourist information if you have any questions, not just as tourists, but also for fun stuff to do yourself. We have heard all about the possibilities of things to do in the Leiden region now, and we'd like to tell you a little bit more about how to deal with the Dutch. And we've asked Caitríona Rush from At Home Abroad to talk to you about cultural differences and cross-cultural solutions. So Caitríona, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karine. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Netherlands and welcome to Leiden. My name is Caitríona Rush. I work as a cross-cultural consultant. And this afternoon, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the Dutch people, their culture and their mentality, and hopefully give you some tips for settling in and making some friends in this wonderful new country that you've chosen to live in. So welcome. Before I start, I'd like to get you exercising your fingers a little bit. Can you please go into the chat function and tell me, what do you like most about the Dutch culture? What have you noticed so far that you like? And you can put more than one thing in there. So off you go. Tell me what you like, whatever it is. Put it in the chat function first. What do we have coming in there?
So far, nothing.
Nothing. Oh, come on.
There you go.
Something you like. Come on, everyone.
They're coming in now. Carefree, direct, natural. The love for bread and cheese.
Wonderful. Bread and cheese. That's very typically Dutch. And I noticed there was a direct in there as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on when we talk about the communication style. What I want to do first of all is talk a little bit about culture, the role culture plays in everyday life, and then I'm going to look specifically at the Dutch culture and what this means for you in your new lives here in the Netherlands. So when I talk about culture, I like to compare it to an iceberg. You've got this small part on the top that you can see, and you've got this large part underneath that you can't see. And the small part on top, I call it holiday culture, because it's the things that you notice when you go on holidays. So what do you notice when you go on holidays? Okay, usually there are things that you can see, things that you can hear, or things that you can taste. So see, you can see the cities. What do they look like? What do the people look like? Are they tall? Are they short? Things that you can hear, the language. You know, you come here and the Dutch, they speak a different language. They speak Dutch. I'd like to quickly ask you again, get your fingers going again, who is learning Dutch or who plans to learn Dutch? Or maybe you already speak a little bit of Dutch. So let me know, are you planning to learn Dutch? Yes or no? Stick that in the box there. Let us know who is planning on learning Dutch or who's already started learning Dutch.
Oh, I see a few. I gave up, but also yes, and I'm learning. I want to learn. So yeah, but also there's the one I gave up.
Okay. Well, first of all, to those of you who are learning or started learning, congratulations. To the person who gave up, maybe try again. And if you gave, because I know one thing, I'm Irish, I know what it's like learning Dutch in this country. The Dutch are so good at languages and they're very friendly and helpful. And quite often when they hear an accent, they switch to English, which is wonderful if you're a tourist, but when you're trying to learn the language, it can be frustrating. So if the reason that you gave up was because the Dutch kept speaking English to you, go back and try it again and be stubborn. Okay, tip, be stubborn and just keep going in Dutch, because it really does make a difference. And for those of you who are not sure whether to learn, I really recommend it. You can get by perfectly well without speaking a word of Dutch. There are lots of people here who do that. But if you really want to settle in, integrate, get to know the culture and the people, it's really handy if you can speak a bit of the language. So good on you, those who are learning, and those who are thinking about it, go for it, try it. So back to my holiday culture. Things that you can see, things that you can hear, the language, and things that you can taste, the food. So who likes Dutch food? People are probably asking, what is Dutch food? Put it, another one in the box. Put it in the box. Do you like Dutch food? If you know what it is. Yes, no? What do we have there?
We have a nope and we have a never tried.
Okay, well, let's start. Okay. So you come here and the food might be a little bit different. And I mean, to be fair, you've probably noticed you can pretty much get food from all over the world here. But say you like the food, great. You don't like the food, well, you go and find supermarkets or you find shops that sell the food that you do like. Or once Corona is over and people can travel again, when your family and friends are coming over to visit, you make a big long list of all the food that you miss from home when you get them to bring over. So this holiday culture, it's easier part of culture to deal with. The things that you can see, the things that you can see, the differences you can see, the differences you can hear, or the differences you can taste. You can quantify the differences. And because of that, it's easier to deal with it. Then you have this large part of culture, so the part of the iceberg which is hidden under the water level. And they're the kind of harder parts of culture to deal with because you can't see the differences. You don't know what the differences are. So for example, your expectations. What were your expectations coming here? What did you expect from your neighbors when you moved in? In many countries, it's normal for the neighbors to come in and welcome you when you move house. In the Netherlands, it's sometimes, not always, it's sometimes the other way around. It's up to you to introduce yourself to the neighbors. And if you don't, they might think, oh, that person wants to be left alone. So they leave you alone. And you think, oh, my neighbors aren't very friendly. You know, different expectations. In the workplace, you know, if you're here for a job or you want to find a job here, what kind of expectations do you have, for example, from your manager? Do you expect a manager to tell you exactly what to do all the time? Or do you expect a manager who lets you do your own thing, who lets you work it out yourself? They're two very, very different things. So expectation is very, very much culturally driven. Your norms, what's normal for you? And your values, what's important to you? You know, we think what's normal for us is normal for everybody, but it's not. So for example, think about your home country. And say in the working environment, is it normal in your home country to call your manager by Mr., Mrs., boss, sir, madam, by some title? Or is it normal to call your manager by their first name? They're two very different things. And why? You know, that looks at values. In the Netherlands is very much an egalitarian society, so everyone is seen as equal. So in the Netherlands, people call their manager by the first name because it shows that we're all equal. However, for many of you, the countries that you're from, it will be normal for you to call your manager by Mr., Mrs., boss, because it shows that your manager is higher up than you. It shows respect, you know? And if someone, maybe in your countries, if you called your manager by the first name, it might be very disrespectful. So how you show respect, your norms and your values are very much culturally driven. Your priorities, you know, you're meeting somebody. Maybe it's a meeting at work or you're meeting somebody for coffee. And on the way to that meeting, you bump into someone else you know. Do you stop and talk to that person, but then be late for your meeting? Or do you say, oh, sorry, I can't stop now. I have a meeting at 9 o'clock. I have to be there at 9 o'clock. It's also very much culturally driven. In some societies, in some cultures, it's very, very important to be on time. You have to be on time. In other societies, it will be rude not to stop and talk to the person. And being late doesn't really matter. People tend to be late. You know, so all these things are very, very much culturally driven. And they're the part of culture that causes problems because you can't see the difference. Okay, you don't know. People don't walk around with a sticker on their forehead saying, I expect you to be on time, or I expect you to do this. You know, it's very, very difficult. And that is often why when you move to a different country, people run into problems because they think things are going to be, they realize they're going to be a little bit different, but they don't always realize how different they're going to be. And they have this idea of what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, but that's quite often very much culturally driven. And if you don't understand the norms and values of the country or the culture that you're living in, it can make it very difficult for yourself. So what I'd like to do now is go and look at some of the Dutch cultural norms and values, things that you might have seen already or things that you definitely will see as you live your life and move over here. First of all, I mentioned a minute ago that the Dutch are what we call an egalitarian society. So there's very much a belief that everybody is equal. You know, so it doesn't matter which age you are, what position you have, you know, your social status, everyone here is seen as equal. You know, I'll give you a little example of this. This is before COVID times. I was in a restaurant on the beach and Mark Rutte, who's the Prime Minister, he came in and he had to wait just like everybody else. He was treated the same as everybody else. In many countries that wouldn't happen. He would be given special privilege and he would have lots of waiters. But over here, he's just a person, he has to wait. You know, you'll find for those of you in the business environment who want to work over here or already working, the way you deal with a manager might be very different. Here, a manager is seen as an equal. If you don't agree with him or her, you can say so, and it's expected. That's very, very different for a lot of people. Children are also brought up as equals. Children over here make their own play dates. Children are brought up to give their opinion and to speak. So everybody is seen as this idea of everyone being equal is very, very important. And what I have, sorry. Oh, my screen is frozen. Okay, sorry, here we go. And what I've done here is I've plotted all your countries, all right, on a scale of how hierarchical are your countries, the people where you're from. On one side, on the left-hand side, we have countries where everyone is seen as equal. And on the right-hand side, we have countries where everyone is seen not as equal, so more hierarchical countries. So where there's a difference in society. And you can see for the vast majority of you, you're from countries where either sit in the middle or more on the hierarchical end of things. So for most of you attending here, the Dutch, the Netherlands is a much, much more egalitarian society than what you're used to. And you will see that everywhere. You'll see it in the working environment, you'll see it in the playground, at school, you'll see it in people that you meet. And it's something to be aware of. People expect to be treated as equals over here. You know, you often hear funny stories of foreign managers who ask their secretaries to make them coffee, and the secretaries show them where the coffee machine is. Secretaries over here don't make the coffee. So bear that in mind in your dealings with the Dutch people, that it's very important to treat everybody as equals, and everyone is seen as equal, regardless of what age you are, regardless of where you come from, and regardless of what position in society you have. Communication style. Now, somebody mentioned the direct in the beginning. I'd like to ask you a question. Get your fingers going again, please. Do you think the communication style of the Dutch is direct? It's often described as direct. Do you agree? Yes or no? Stick it in the box, please.
Yes, yes, agree.
Yes, yes, agree. Okay, yes, yes, agree. Wonderful.
Maybe.
Wonderful.
I also get in yes, but in a good way. So there's still hope.
Okay, oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Sometimes we get one or two no's, but maybe it's usually just a yes we get. Usually it's just a yes. So communication style. Communication style, direct. All right, I think everyone tends to agree with this. Both the Dutch agree with this and both kind of internationals tend to agree with this. But why are the Dutch direct? That's the thing that's the most important. And maybe I sometimes find it very nice to ask a Dutch person to do this. Maybe Corinne or Monique, would you like to briefly explain why are the Dutch direct? I should have told you I was going to ask you this earlier. I forgot. I'm sorry. Corinne,
thank you so much. Well, yeah, well, that's fine. I think it's very clear. You just know if something is yes or no, or tomorrow or today, or, you know, it's just, you know what it's about. There's no uncertainty.
Yeah, and I can say that we are so used to it. So for us, it's just a normal thing. So that's the way we are brought up. So I don't know any other way of communication. This is the way we are.
Yes. Thank you, Monique and Corinne. It is. It's just Dutch being direct. A lot of people find it, it's been called rude. A lot of people take offense at the Dutch being direct. It's not meant that way. You know, Dutch directness is about saying things, as Corinne said, saying things as they are. It's about being open, it's about being honest, and it's about being transparent. The Dutch don't like to waste words, you know, so in the Dutch language, you know, why use 10 words if you can say something in 2 words? So for example, English is a more, maybe we call it polite language. So if you come to my house, I would say, would you like a cup of coffee or do you prefer tea? And then I might say, oh, do you take milk with that? How much milk would you like? Would you like some sugar? In the Netherlands, someone might say to you, coffee, thee, melk, suiker. You know, very simple and direct. They say things as they are. And it's not meant to offend you. It's not meant personally. It's just meant to say things as they are. The Dutch like clarity and they like understanding. They like knowing exactly where they stand. So if someone says something to you and you think, oh, that's a little bit rude, it's not meant that way. All right? The Dutch like to know how things are. If they ask you a question, they're just asking you a question. If they say, make a comment about your hair, for example, and maybe they say, oh, you went to the hairdresser. You say, oh, yes, it's nice, but I preferred the way it was yesterday. You might think, oh, what's wrong with my hair? You know, there's nothing wrong with your hair. You might think, oh, that person doesn't like me anymore. No, that's not what they said. If a Dutch person says something about your hair, all they're doing is commenting about your hair. They're not commenting about you as a person. So be aware of that. If someone says something that's you find very direct, you find it a little bit rude, it's generally speaking, it's not meant rude. It's not meant to offend you. They just like to say things as they are. And the other way around, for you, most of you, the countries that you're from, most of your communication styles are more indirect, and definitely when compared to the Dutch. What does that mean for you when you're communicating with the Dutch? The Dutch are used to, as Monique said, they're brought up being direct. This is the way, this is normal for them. If you start being indirect and you start talking in circles, there's a chance they might not understand you. So just be very aware of that. There's also a chance they might think, oh, well, why don't you just tell me what you want? Just say what you want. You know, why are you saying it that way? They might think it's a little bit distrustful. You're trying to be polite, but they might see it a little bit as distrustful. So be very aware. Think of your communication style. Think how you like to say things. If you're from a society or if you communicate quite indirectly, be prepared to be more direct over here. Otherwise, people just will not understand you. So go out. That's something to go and practice. The next little thing I want to talk about is agendas. Okay, something very, very important in the Dutch culture and the Dutch society when we're allowed to go out and meet people and do things. Many of us, some of us might remember these agendas that they used to have. Everybody, I think, will recognize this. It's very important in the Netherlands when you're meeting people to make an appointment. The Dutch in general, I'm generalizing here, of course, in general, they're not really into spontaneous things. Okay, they like to plan their lives. And I'm not just talking about their business lives, but also their personal lives. So if you want to go for coffee, go for a glass of wine with somebody, go to the cinema, you want to invite someone over for a dinner, it's important to organize it beforehand. Usually the Dutch are quite busy because they tend to organize things. And they tend to be quite busy. So sometimes you need to make it a few weeks beforehand. Don't be offended if you say to somebody, oh, you're getting on well with someone, say, hey, do you want to come for a drink or shall we go to the cinema now? And they take out their phone and they swipe and they said, well, no, I can't go now, but I can go in 4 weeks' time. Okay. Some of you are laughing, but this might happen to you. Some of you might think, oh, they don't really want to go with me. That doesn't mean that at all. All right. It really means that all it means is that they're full and the next available slot or time they have to meet you is in 4 weeks' time. So if you're from, for example, a Southern European country or Latin American country where people are a lot much more spontaneous in doing things, it's something that might take a little bit getting used to, is to get yourself into the habit of when you're meeting people or you want to meet Dutch people is to plan it in advance. All right. Now, I want to ask you a question. All right, another question you can start typing in a minute. Pretend you have a job, all right? And in your job, you get paid, obviously, and you have a set amount of working hours. You are happy with your current job. You are happy with the pay you get. The salary is good and the amount of working hours is good. Okay, so you have no complaints about the pay. You have no complaints about the job. You have no complaints about what you get paid other than working hours. I offer you a choice, all right? You can either keep working the same amount of hours you're currently working, but get paid more money, so the same hours and more money, or you can keep earning the same amount of money, but work less hours. What would you choose? Would you choose same hours, more money? It's one option is the same hours, more money, and the other option is same money and less hours. So can you put that in the box? So one is the same hours, more money, same money, less hours. What would you choose? Would you go for the money or would you go for the less hours?
Less hours. That's why I came here. That's what I see. And private life is more important. Less hours, same money. Yeah, so everybody sort of agrees, I guess.
Less hours, same money. Oh, you came for the perfect country for that. If you're less hours, more money, you came for 2 weeks. Perfect place. Some societies are motivated by what we call status. So motivated by lots of money, having nice cars, nice houses, nice jewelry. In more status societies, people tend to work long hours, and who you are at work kind of tends to define who you are as a person. And in status orientated societies, there is kind of a thought of your life, your whole work is your life. So generally speaking, you live to work. So you live in order to work. Work encompasses everything. You have other societies then, which are more work-life balance. And in work-life balance societies, people work to live. So they work to earn money to live their life. And it's not that money isn't important or work isn't important. They are, they're both important, but private life is just as important. And you've probably already guessed it, the Dutch is very, very much more on the work-life balance side of things. Okay, in the Netherlands, it's very, very important for people to have a life outside of work. So, and what does this mean? So this means working hours generally, obviously it depends on who you work for in the company. Generally speaking, people start work between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and then they finish between 5 and 6 o'clock. Overtime, if people need to work overtime, they will work overtime. People get the job done, but it's not common. For some of you, it's quite normal where you come from for people to stay in the office till 7, 8, 9 o'clock every day. It's quite normal that you don't leave the office earlier because it shows that you're not motivated. Staying in shows that you're motivated, or maybe you stay in because your manager is still there. You can't leave before your manager. In the Netherlands, it's often maybe seen as, well, there's something wrong. You should be able to get your work done by 5 or 6 o'clock. You shouldn't need to be in the office till 9 o'clock every night to get your work done. So there's a very, very different attitude on it. And you'll find Dutch people with families, for example, and children, will go home because they'll try and have dinner with their families and put their children to bed. Younger people tend to have lives during the week. So Monday night, they might go to the cinema. Tuesday night, they might have a sports night. Wednesday night, they might meet their friends for drinks. So people, generally speaking, have a life in the evening and the weekend over here. So for those of you who choose that, that's you come to the perfect place. People work hard when they're at work, but they also enjoy their private life outside of the working life. So very important. Now, I just want to finish off and give you a few tips for settling into the Netherlands. All right. First of all, when this is allowed, invite your neighbors in. Okay. Really, really important to get to know your neighbors, I think, because they're the ones who, if you forgot your key, you can go and knock on their door if they have a key. They're the ones who will water your plants if they're nice when you go on holidays. They're also a really great source of information about the local community. So you want to know for a good baker, or you want to get involved in some community volunteer work or whatever. The neighbors are a great way to start. They're a great way to start settling in. So once we're allowed to invite people in and we're allowed to be more sociable, go and invite your neighbors in. Remember to plan it in advance a little bit. I always say invite twice as many people as you'd like to be there because of the busy agendas that they have, a lot of them won't come. And don't be afraid to throw them out if they're staying too long. This came up a while ago with somebody. They invited their neighbors in and everyone having such a good time that the neighbors kind of just kept staying. And at some stage they said, okay, thank you for coming. It's time to go now. And they were kind of shocked that they said this because from their country, you wouldn't be able to do that. It would be rude, but the Dutch were fine with it, you know? And you can even, something else which might be strange for some of you is when you're inviting people in, you can put a start time and an end time on it. For many of you, you wouldn't normally put an end time on it, but you can put an end time on an invitation. So invite your neighbors.
5-minute warning, talking of end time.
Okay, thank you, Jenny, thank you. Neighbors are also very handy for working out. Well, if you've got children, all right, who has children who are the same age as yours children? Very handy and very useful. And maybe even a little bit more useful is who have teenagers who can babysit your children so that you can go out whenever we're allowed to go out again. So invite your neighbors in. Think about that. Have a plan, what you want to do. Invite the neighbors in when it's allowed. Learn the language. I mentioned this earlier. It really makes a big difference. You know, you can have a really good life here without learning the language. You can have an even better life here when you speak the language. It's amazed how much of the culture and the people you will understand by speaking the language. You know, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be fluent, but just make a little bit of an effort. And don't wait until you know everything before you start speaking. A lot of internationals make that mistake, I think. They are afraid to talk it until they know everything. You're never going to know everything until you speak it. So even if you only use a few words, start with those few words and then go into English. And then when you learn more words, use the more words, you know. So when you're in the shop, talking to your neighbors, talking with your colleagues at work, always start off in Dutch if you can. You know, do as much as you can in Dutch and then go back into English. It's the best way to practice. And you will realize a lot more about the Dutch people by speaking the language. It's amazing how much more you can learn about the culture and the people and the mentality by understanding and speaking a little bit of the language. Treat everyone as equals. Remember we said it's a very egalitarian society. This idea of everyone being equal is very, very important. So it's, especially for those of you from much more hierarchical societies, it's very important for you. It'll be strange, I know, it'll be very weird in the beginning, you know, to have this idea of everyone being seen as equals here, because that's the way society works over here. Not everyone thinks the way you do. Remember we looked at the culture iceberg in the beginning, we talked about norms and values. Norms is what's normal for you and values are what's important to you. So what's important to you and what's normal to you is not necessarily normal and important to other people. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult in the beginning, but what's important to you might not always be important to somebody else. So be aware that other people are different. Everyone has different norms and different values. And accept it and be curious. Go and ask questions. Ask why people. You know, learn more about the Dutch culture by asking questions. You know, the Dutch are very helpful. They're very friendly. And they're also, generally speaking, they have an opinion on things. So when a Dutch person asks you, well, are you like, do you like living in the Netherlands? What do you think of it? Instead of just saying, oh, yes, thank you, I really enjoy it. You can say, oh, yes, thank you, I really enjoy it. But I find the Dutch are very direct. Why are they direct? Or, yes, well, I'm finding it difficult to make friends. How do I meet people over here? You know, use all your interactions with the Dutch to learn more about the culture, to learn more about the people, and to find out more things. You know, one really good thing about the Dutch being direct is they'll give you a direct answer, you know, and they don't tend to get offended very easily. So don't be afraid to go out and ask questions and interact with people and learn more about the culture and the people and the mentality over here. Communication style, be clear and be direct. If you want something, say what you want, all right? A lot of us, we don't like asking for what we want because it's not polite. You know, many of us, if you think about where you're from, you think it's important to be honest in many societies, but it's more important to be polite. In the Netherlands, it's the other way around. So sometimes if you're trying to be polite, people might not understand you. So start practicing, learning how to be direct in your communications. Say what you want, say what you think, and say it directly and clearly. And the last tip I'm going to give you, a very important tip, is that if you want something, you have to ask for it. You have to learn to stand up for yourself in the Netherlands. Don't assume that people are always going to have your best interests at heart and be thinking about what's important for you. It's not that they don't care, it's just that society doesn't work that way. You have to stand up for yourself over here. So if you're, for example, you're in a job and you see an interesting training course, you ask, can you go on it? You take up sport, maybe you're playing football and you're playing for the B team, but you think you're good enough for the A team, you ask if you can go on the A team, all right? Your internet connection isn't working. You ring up and they say, oh, they can't help you. You say, well, is there somebody else there who can help me? You really have to go and stand up for yourself. If you want something, you ask for it. And if you don't get the answer that you want or the answer that's useful, you find a different way of asking. You know, many of us, we're too polite to keep pushing it and to keep asking questions. But if you ask something and you don't get an answer that's useful, you find a different way to ask that question. Or you ask, is there somebody else who can help me there? Does somebody else have this problem? Can you put me in touch with someone else? Can you give me some other tips that might be useful for me? So that's something also for most of you, very, very important. If you want something, ask for it. Stand up for yourself over here. That was it. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoy your time in the Netherlands. Have fun. It's a great country. Leiden is a beautiful city. It's really nice. People are very, very friendly. Go and visit Monique and all her colleagues in the tourist office. They'll help you and show you around the place. And to get out there and explore. I know it's very difficult now and it's a very hard time to move to a new country with Corona because you can't interact, you can't meet people, you can't join clubs. But it looks like the restrictions are easing off now. So get out there, practice your Dutch, go out and meet people, have fun and enjoy yourself.